Okay, we're obviously trying something a little different here today. I have a new computer and I haven't been so happy with the sound to begin with, but I'm definitely not happy with it now. So what I've done is I have plugged in a headset and microphone, which makes me look really stupid, and also I have bug bite on my forehead, which you don't need to see. And I'm playing with the options on my new computer to put all of these pictures on there and then narrate something. So instead of the usual video where you see me making a lot of hand gestures, you will now see these pictures. And I tried not to get any that offend anyone, but I might have, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know if you will end up liking this better than seeing me, but these little pictures are, I'm afraid, about to start repeating. So let me get to the content of the message for today. I want to let you know that the comments on your feedback are improving a great deal. People are being more specific. They are addressing more things that maybe need some revision, that sort of thing, and they're actually taking a stab at revising. I want you all to keep doing that, keep being specific, keep giving suggestions for revising different text. And for those of you who are receiving that information, you know, we have a lot of different industries here in the class, and so there are going to be times where you've written something for your industry and someone just doesn't get it. And that's totally okay. You know what, disregard whatever doesn't necessarily apply that they don't understand. You don't have to get defensive about it or worry about it too much. Just, you know, shrug that to the side. But if somebody rewrites something and the rewrite doesn't appeal to you, I think what's most important is not so much how do they rewrite it, although that in itself can fix a problem for you, but the fact that they felt the need to rewrite it says, hey, something's not working there. You might also get feedback that, hey, you left this thing out, or you bring this up here, but you really should have explained this, and you go back and look and you're like, I did explain that. But even if you're right that you did explain it, the fact that somebody brings it up does mean that they missed it somehow. So maybe something isn't quite working like it should be for you. So do consider taking the feedback and thinking not just what is the content of the feedback, but what does it say that they stumbled over something and felt the need to point it out in some way. So hopefully you'll get some positive feedback in that way. A student in the FAQ section of the discussion board asked me about possibly assigning groups, because I know there is this pressure, you know, like you don't want to voluntarily give feedback because that would suggest, you know, that, well, it can be uncomfortable for people to voluntarily give feedback. And so someone suggested that I maybe put together groups of people. So like maybe there'd be 5 people or 6, probably 5 people or thereabouts in a group, and you would all comment on one another's writing. And I don't know if that would change up on a regular basis or weekly basis, and it could be a logistical nightmare, but it's a possibility. It's something that I can do. So if you want to go to the FAQ section and maybe voice an opinion on that, or maybe have a discussion about it, that would be great. In the meantime, I do want to reiterate that the anonymous posting option is available for follow-up comments. So if you you know you need to respond to about at least 3 people, ideally 4 people, I would like you to give some good feedback, and if you just don't feel comfortable doing that for whatever reason, and there are lots of reasons why you might not feel comfortable doing that, then the anonymous option is available to you. You can choose to post anonymously. All I ask is that you include like the first 4 digits of your M numbers, your student ID numbers. It's M something, I forget, I think there's 7 numbers after that. I can see those, your fellow students cannot, so, but I want to keep track. I still want to make sure I'm keeping track of who you are posting to, and or how many posts that you're following up on, and also there should be some accountability. You know, I wouldn't want people posting anonymously and then just going to town on folks and hurting people's feelings right and left, turning into internet trolls. So some accountability there. But seriously, if that appeals to you, feel free to use the anonymous option. But honestly, I think you're really improving with your specific comments. I would look at the comments that you've received, and what are the most helpful ones that you've received. Can you respond in a similar way? Maybe not quite the same. Maybe you don't feel as confident in what the kind of feedback you received, but can you respond in a similar way on somebody else's post, maybe with your own slant to it? Maybe you can't deal with grammar or style, but you can deal with, hey, even just to say, I had to reread this section twice. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but something isn't quite working. Even that, being specific about a phrase or a part of a paragraph that isn't quite working, even that can be helpful. So, and I know you all are able to do that. And I think the more you're willing to put yourself out there to be constructive with your comments, and the more people are willing to receive those comments constructively, I think the better community you'll build here, and hopefully you will begin to communicate even offline. I'm hoping you might decide you want to trade papers before you turn them in, or communicate via Facebook and whatnot. You can have a whole wealth of resources, not just for this class, by building a community within the class. So anyway, all that being said, this week is a little different because it's the first time you are submitting a formal assignment. So if you go under the assignments tab and look under week 5, you will see that you've got a discussion post. Sorry, I was talking about the more formal aspects. You have a progress report 1, and I couldn't figure out how to do it in a nice looking way besides the way that I did it. So you'll see progress report 1 instructions. It's got the deadline, which is actually Sunday. So you have one more extra day, Sunday, February 10th, by the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. And I provide a link to a formal letter format, business letter format. If you want to use a business letter format from a style guide or from some other place that you find online, that's just fine. I just provided you with a link to Purdue University's Writing Center form for business writing. I think it's a good source for all kinds of different business writing forms and business writing advice, and even not just business writing. So they're a good source, and I tend to default to them, just as an FYI. Speaking of which, a few times it came up in your comments on the discussion board, post number 3 that I was reading most recently, which it was the format for a memo. Basically, you always have 4 things in the header: to, from, subject, and date. But the order of it really depends on consistency within your organization. So if no one has ever written a memo in your organization, then you get to establish the form. And honestly, going to Purdue, there's a sample memo there. You can go there and check it out, or you can go into your Gregg reference manual and check out the format there. But if you already have a company that has memos and you've seen those, go with that format. So if they have the date first, fine. If they have to first, go with that. If they have subject first, do it. So the guiding principle is consistency in terms of that sort of thing. So I did want to bring that up. One other thing, and this is where we get into some serious stuff that I want to bring your attention to, is I am still, when I read your discussion posts, if you don't attach them in Word quite often, at least at this stage, now that you've had feedback from me for 2 or 3 weeks now, I move what you've written into Word. Instantly, Word points out spots that are wrong. It underlines things in green and red, and now, not all of these things are wrong. Sometimes Word hits them and they are not wrong, and I certainly can discern the difference. But most of the time, 90% or more of the time, there is something going wrong. And so a lot of you are clearly either not utilizing your resources like you should be, or you are I'm not sure what you're doing. So if you go under web resources, there's a link to a tutorial under lynda.com that can help you set up your spelling and grammar and style checkers in Word. And I emphasize that last word, in style, because that is not a default setting in Microsoft Word. So if you think, oh, I'm running my spell check, and oh, look, it checks for grammar too, that's not enough. You really need to change the setting. It's usually a pull-down menu from grammar to grammar and style. And you may want to check the settings on that, but I have every box in there checked for my own word settings, except for contractions. I have no problem with contractions, so I unchecked that. There's also an option, a lot of you learned on the most humbling grammar quiz, that punctuation goes inside the quotation mark. So you will find that you can make a setting for that all punctuate, it should check to make sure all your punctuation is inside quotation marks. So part of writing well is using your resources, whether it be your grammar and spelling checker, or your proofreading buddies, or your grade reference manual, or whatever it is. It's getting stuff done. It's not just being able to write it initially, but being able to figure out how to get it done. So your grades will start to reflect whether or not you are getting it done. So I spend a lot of time and care on the comments that I give back to you, and I want to make sure you are utilizing my feedback and that my feedback is going where it needs to go. And it doesn't need to go where Microsoft Word can teach you what it is that you need to do. I may start posting in web resources some fun ways to learn some grammar. I've already sent that out one thing individually to a student who seemed to like it, but it is possible to take one thing at a time and work on it and then move on and make it better. So again, under week 5, under assignments, the assignments tab, you'll find the progress report instructions and where to post it. And you will also find a link to the discussion board. It's a little more informal this time, but make sure to do it.